You're watching the Health Now Nutrition Podcast, advancing our holistic and nutrition industry one story at a time. Presenting your host, Michelle Post.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Health Now Nutrition, and our fabulous guest is Denise Tam, who hails all the way over from Hong Kong and has an amazing story. So just to let you know a little bit about Denise here, she's a two-time cancer survivor, holistic nutritionist, and a self-professed chef. And like I mentioned before the podcast, is she has some phenomenal pictures of her in her restaurant kitchen, just showcasing amazing foods. They look absolutely lovely and delicious. Her life-changing battle with stage 4 cancer has inspired her to share her newfound appreciation for life by teaching and motivating others towards a more natural way of living. She is the co-founder of Food for Life, a retail concept that combines health education to consumers, and the co-founder of Wellness Wednesdays, a community that inspires and encourages one another to reach their optimal wellness. Denise believes in incorporating the body, mind, and spirit to achieve complete wellness, and with her firsthand experience, which you'll find out about, she offers practical advice to do just that. Her philosophy in life is love first, eat well, and laugh lots. I just love that. So to get in touch with Denise, you can contact her at denise@foodforlifehk.com. Welcome to the show, Denise.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I am so super excited to share your story and every place that you've come from. It's just absolutely fantastic. So their story, though, you're sharing it in the Saved by Nutrition anthology coming up. So I just want to know, first of all, what it was like for you to write your story down.
Well, I mean, because I was diagnosed in 2009, so that was quite a years away. But it was really, it was very, it brought me to a new place, being able to look back at this journey and even bringing new insights, even today. Like after several or many years of being cancer-free, it really brought new insights, new enlightenments about my health even. So I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Wow.
So much so that, and it was, to be honest, it was really hard to keep everything into the 2 pages that we need. As I'm sure you know,
Yes. Yeah.
helping us edit all that. But yeah, keeping it within the 2 pages, I knew that there was so much more that I wanted to share. And so that's why I'm working with you on our book, on a book, yeah.
Absolutely. That's super exciting because just like you mentioned, there is always so much to share. And yes, to keep it down to a valuable real estate of 2.5 pages there, but I have so much more. And
Yeah.
you do. So I'm super glad that we can introduce your upcoming book, and share what your journey was really like and what you have to offer people.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So you had quite a tragedy at a young age. Tell me a bit about your health experience when you were 26.
Yes, so I am in Hong Kong now, but I was actually born and raised in Ontario, Canada. And I moved back to Hong Kong around in 2007 and spent 2 years in Beijing. So Beijing, a little bit more polluted than maybe what I'm used to in Canada. But it was my time in Beijing where I also was diagnosed with stage 4 lymphoma. And
Wow.
so there had spread to my bone marrow, into my blood. It was actually considered an advanced stage.
Can you just share a little bit about what lymphoma is, just briefly?
Yeah, so lymphoma is the cancer of the lymph nodes. And the lymph nodes being really our sewer system. It helps cleans out all the sludge in our system. We have lymph nodes all over our body.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the times when people are diagnosed with lymphoma, it is quite far in advance. If you're lucky, you might be at a stage 1. But yeah, for myself, it had already spread into the blood even. And so, yeah, doctors were also seeing it as like a blood cancer. So it was a mix between
Wow.
lymphoma and leukemia. So that was
Wow.
26, when, you know, you're just wanting to have fun in life. You know, you don't have time for cancer at
Right?
20.
And did you notice any symptoms creeping up on you before you were diagnosed?
I didn't have any symptoms. I mean, so when people ask me this, it's funny because looking back now, being more aware of my body and aware of, okay, so when I am tired, it is my body telling me something. But back then, I would say I had no symptoms because I could push through. You know, I could have those late nights and wake up, you know, early in the morning. And I
Oh, the
always
youth.
so so, you know, if you're asking me back then, did I have any symptoms? I would say absolutely no symptoms at all. But asking me now, who, you know, now I'm a lot more aware of the fact that our bodies communicate with us.
Yeah.
They, you know, if we're waking up with a headache, or all of a sudden we have like an inflammation in our skin that randomly appears, these are all forms of communication. Our bodies are crying out and telling us, warning us that something is off, something is wrong.
So what led you to go seek a diagnosis? What was happening? Super curious.
It was literally just a like a blood work, a routine blood work. I hadn't
Really?
gone done. Yeah, I just went to the GP. Said, oh, I haven't gotten, you know, a general checkup in a long time. And she just did a routine. They weren't checking for any cancer markers, nothing. Routine blood work, but they found that my white blood cells, my red blood cells, my lymphocytes, my neutrophils, they were just completely off the chart.
Wow.
And in that instant, so the report came back, and she wanted to speak to my mom and I. And in that instant, she already told us cancer. But, you know, being a GP, I remember when she told me that, I was just in my daze because I couldn't process it. But my mom, who was beside me, was just so angry and saying, you know, don't say that word until you are 100% sure.
Oh my
But it
gosh.
did turn out to be cancer after the further testings.
Wow.
Yeah.
So just for the viewers out there, we are talking with the amazing Denise Tam. She is a 2-time cancer survivor, and you can contact her at email denise@foodforlifehk.com. So now you were 26 years old when this happened for you. And like we were talking about, it was like, you're young. Like that's like you mentioned in your story, that there's no time for cancer. So what did you start doing or changing, or what did you notice that you could change? Like how did nutrition fall across your plate with this?
Yeah, so when I was diagnosed, right away, you know, as we all do, especially now, went on the internet, read a whole bunch of blogs, got scared, and turned that off for some time. But then I started really thinking about, you know, how did I get here? Those usually when you're brought this kind of diagnosis, you ask those big questions like, how did I end up like this at 26? And really just digging deeper into, you know, were there lifestyle changes that I had made in the past that brought me here? If so, what could I do differently? And then you just asked me about, you know, any symptoms, any warning signs. So I did have symptoms actually. So I had severe constipation. So I couldn't, you know, release the toxins for, you know, several days on end. And that also makes a lot of sense, right?
Yes,
and so
right.
I'm in this also very polluted environment, and you know, probably not taking too much care about the type of foods, or at least the source of foods that I was eating.
Interesting.
And not being able to eliminate that, then that would, over time, right? It's only a matter of time that it would cause something like a cancer to grow inside.
So that
So
constipation must have been going on for like many, many years.
many years. Yeah. So I realized that I didn't wake up just one day with cancer. That it took time, many years, like probably since I was in middle school or high school back in Canada.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
But over time, and with the addition of more and more toxins and pollutants and things like that, that it just, built up in my body until my body said, all right, this is it, listen to me. And so, yeah, with the cancer, I was really forced to listen to my body and to understand it. And being Chinese, being raised in a Chinese home, my mom had always made like Chinese soups for different things. If it was humid out, or if it was cold, or for circulation.
Oh my
So
gosh, awesome.
I always had this idea of, food can also provide wholeness and nutrition to help bring our body back to its equilibrium and to its optimal health. So with that, then I started exploring, okay, well, are there foods specifically that can help target this cancer, or foods specifically that can support my journey, support me during treatments that I was going through. So that's kind of how it led me into nutrition. Yeah.
Holy moly. So I have so many questions, of course. So what were the first couple of things that you started to change in your, I guess, nutritional lifestyle, any type of your lifestyle that helped you?
So first, being in Asia, this was 2009, right? So it was a lot more difficult to source really good quality foods, but particularly meats. So now we know, with the meat industry, just factory farming, right?
Yeah.
The hormones and the antibiotics, and just like the things that the feed that they are fed is not what the animals normally eat. So I decided to cut that completely out. So I went pure vegan for a while, completely plant-based.
Wow.
And then I just did a lot of like green juicing, making sure all the antioxidants of all colors, I wasn't just focusing on that kale, or focusing on
kale.
Yeah. But I was making sure that I was having that full spectrum, that rainbow of colors, because that's where, different antioxidants work differently in our bodies. And so I was juicing just all different types of juices, ensuring that I could get as much nutrients, so nutrient dense as possible.
Yeah.
Eliminating is probably the first step. So, going into the cupboards and throwing out all the packaged and bottled things with like E numbers, with the additives, or the colorings, and you don't realize, you think, okay, well, this should be safe, right? I don't know, it's in a bottle, it's in a brand, right? I know.
It's generally recognized as safe. It's grass, right?
Yes. So yeah, just getting rid of that and just going back to the basics, going back to the basics of eating whole foods, and cooking, and getting back in touch with nature. So that was really like that very first step that I took, was just going back to food, and then from there, I went on to work on sleep and stress levels, and like I said, being in nature, connecting with nature, just the energy from nature can be so healing as well.
Right. Yeah.
And then,
absolutely. There's lots of great energy out there. So I have to ask, how long did it take you to normalize your bowels then from starting your starting point?
Oh gosh. Well, it took a very long time. I'd say over 2 to 3 years for it to really work more optimally.
Yeah.
Still today, I do need to be very cautious of, I'll still track, whether I'm going to the bathroom, how many times I'm going to the bathroom. I'm sorry, I know this is
No,
live.
I'm too much information. Here's an
What does the poop look like?
right. What color is it? Does it float? Does it sink?
Yeah, are they floaters? Are they sinkers?
I love poop talk,
Signs, right?
Right, they really are. Thank you for sharing that, because I'm always curious about that, having the opposite myself of going too much. 8 to 38 bowel movements a day, with having my own history with Crohn's disease. So when I finally normalized my bowels and I actually had to push for the first time, I was like, what is this muscle? I've never used this muscle. So yeah, so it's quite a contrast for me, because I don't understand this constipation thing. So
And vice versa.
right.
But both of us have to relearn how to use that muscle.
Right.
Different muscle, but also relearn, teach our bodies again how to use that muscle.
Absolutely, and that's been a lot of fun. So. And if you guys want to know more about Denise, you know where to email her now. So
tell me all about your bowel movements. I've been there.
That's all we want to know. That's all we care about. I love it. So when you first found out that you had this tragedy, how long did it take it, like the lymphoma, to resolve itself?
Yeah, so I did go through conventional treatment of chemotherapy, and I do have to say that I'll always be thankful for the traditional, conventional Western medicine that gave me time. It brought me to a place and a time where I had that energy and enough health to explore nutrition, to explore different alternative or integrative medicine. And so I went through about 6 months of the treatment, and I was then officially in remission.
Awesome.
However, quite quickly after, it relapsed again.
Oh, okay.
And so in 2012, in August, I remember I couldn't take it anymore. And when my parents got home from church that Sunday afternoon, I told them, all right, take me to the hospital.
Wow.
So I went in through ER with a resting heart rate of like over 150, high fever, and actually I had fluid filled up in my abdomen and also in my lungs, but it filled up in my abdomen so much that it looked like I was like 3-4 months pregnant.
Wow.
And and of course, fever, couldn't breathe, and right away I was admitted in with an oxygen tank on. They put a tube in my lungs right away to drain out the fluid, and that day onward, I had to spend 2 months in the hospital until I was stable enough to be released.
2 months in the hospital until you were stable enough to be, wow.
Yeah. So that was difficult because I thought, the first time I was eating well. I was, trying to get myself on track. But I suppose, these things take time, with food and nutrition, it takes time because it took time for the cancer to build up in my system, right? So it wasn't going to be, unfortunately, it wasn't going to be like a 6-month thing and then I was done and over with it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it did come back. And that was when it was another wake up call for me to really, put on my seatbelt and really drive this hard. And then I explored more things. Then was when I also looked more into the mind and the spirit, and that body mind spirit connection is what I'm really passionate about today. Is that sometimes we just focus on the food, which is really important, but the body, the spirit and the mind are just as important. And they all work synergistically together. If one is off balance, then the other is going to follow suit.
I love that you say that, because for myself, I've always felt that when you add the right nutrition into your cells, then of course your cells can handle, like, it really helps with mindset as well, because you don't have this off balance in your blood sugar or the myriad of other toxins or microbiota that can cause issues. And at the same time, the negative energy that flows in your head can also get trapped into the cells.
Yes. Yeah. So a lot of people don't realize that even our thoughts, the thoughts that we have inside, they have frequencies. Like our emotions, our feelings have frequencies. And if you are in constant fear, and I understand people going through trauma, having gone through trauma myself, like it's, you don't choose it, but you can choose how to respond to it.
Yes.
And to bring it out to light, don't let it, don't suffocate it inside, because it's just sending off all the bad frequencies that we don't want.
Absolutely. Like, just absolutely amazing. So I love that you work in those modalities as well. Like, that's just because it all works together. I am so with you. So how long has it been that you've been free?
So it was November 2013 that I stopped my very last chemo. And this was I actually didn't finish my treatment. So I was supposed to go through a bone marrow transplant and continue with chemotherapy for another 2 years.
Wow.
But after about the third chemo, which was like one of the maintenance chemos, because by then, actually, I had already done 16 rounds.
Oh.
A lot. It was a lot. And 16 rounds in such a short period of time. So by that 16th round, my body, again, was just crying out and saying, it's got to stop. And how it did that was I had severe edema, so much so that even just putting my legs down from the bed to go to the bathroom or go to the kitchen to get, some water was so excruciating. It was severely inflamed, ballooned up, and I basically was bedridden. I needed to stay in bed, had my legs elevated, for quite some time. Like, I only would go out if I really, really need to either seek treatment or physio, and the doctors couldn't do anything. And they even, took a biopsy from my leg of the skin, thinking that it was like the cancer there, but thank God it was not. Yeah. But the edema spread up to my upper limbs. So my arms were like steel. I had arms of steel without having to go to the gym.
That's a great way to look at it. Yeah.
They were just rock hard. And then it moved up to my hands, and my fingers and my hands were just so tight from the swelling that I couldn't clasp my hands like this. They were constantly like this. And, to pick up a cup, I had to pick it up with 2 hands and drink.
Oh my gosh.
And so it was just a really bad time. Doctors couldn't do anything. I was like, also at wit's end. I didn't know what to do. And the last straw was when I lost hearing in my right ear.
Oh my gosh.
And so that's when I went to the ENT doctor, and he said actually he's seen several cases like this where cancer patients, had gone through a lot of either radiation or chemotherapy, and it ended up being permanent nerve damage. And so that's when I said, okay, well, what happens if, my other side as well? And so I just decided to stop all of the treatment, because I knew that, this was it. And it was really a matter of, okay, do I continue in a way living in fear that the cancer will come back? Because I have to say that I decided to continue with the maintenance chemo really out of that sense of fear.
Yeah.
And also because my oncologist did say that if I didn't do the chemotherapy, I would be committing suicide.
Yeah, there's a few scare tactics that happen every once in a while.
So I went through that. But then when I was faced with all of these other challenges, that's when I said, okay, am I going to continue living in fear, or do I, step out? At some point we're going to have to step out of the boat, and, drive the boat. Sometimes we need to step out of the boat to drive the boat, oddly enough.
Interesting. I love it. I'm working around it.
And so that's when I decided, okay, I've had enough. And I really spent a good two and a half years just working on my body. And again, going back to nutrition and making those tweaks, those little tweaks. And slowly over time, I'm still cancer-free. It was about 3 years ago that I ran my first 10K. I'm really not a runner, but
I love running. I love jogging, but I'm not a runner either.
I still don't get it, to be honest. After training for that 10K, when people told me you'll reach that runner's high, I'm like, I'm still waiting for that.
Oh, I've had the runner's high. It's kind of fun, but yeah, no, it's an interesting. I'm a jogger, not a runner. Well, that's amazing that you did that. Like, so what are the things? What are the things that you've learned most about yourself after having such a tumultuous journey?
I think, well, really coming face to face with death, or just having death loom over you for multiple times. I mean, it really forces one to think about life very differently, but ask those questions, why I'm here, why even I have breath today, why did I wake up today? What am I meant to do today? And especially now, and also like questions of faith, and especially now, having those questions of why did this happen to me, but also on the flip side, why am I still alive today? Because I have come across and met other wonderful cancer patients who unfortunately didn't make it.
Yeah.
And so I do ask myself, that larger question of, why am I still here? And with these larger questions, it also brought me to that place of understanding that there is so much that we don't know, that we are not in control of. And with this coronavirus, it's another great reminder that
I know that's the other C word right now.
Yeah. That there's a lot that we don't know and that we're not in control of. However, I mean, whether you believe in God or not, it is clear that there is something higher than us. But it's also very clear that we have been given this free will.
Absolutely.
And this free will of how to treat our planet, how to treat our bodies, how to treat each other, how to treat ourselves.
Right.
And with this free will comes responsibility. And I think that was really just that big lesson I learned, that, you know, yes, I was 26 and probably not as wise as I am now. But, you know, having the health that I had, having the health that I have now, you know, I can't take it for granted. There are people and myself that, you know, I did a lot to get myself to this place. And these are all responsibilities that we have for ourselves, for our loved ones, for our earth, and that there is a lot that we can do. Yes, there's a lot that we don't know. Yes, there's a lot that, you know, we're not in control of everything, but there is a lot that we can do. And this also brings me back to just a phrase I remember a friend constantly telling me when I was doing my research on the internet and just getting really freaked out by
Google. Yeah.
Prognosis. Yeah. She was saying, you know, you're not the statistic. You are not one of those statistics, because usually in those statistics, in those like studies, a lot of people aren't doing anything. They're just sitting there and saying, okay, you know, I'll follow what the doctor prescribes, or I'll just take that medicine. But I went ahead and did a lot more.
Yeah.
And so that's also something that, you know, that really stuck with me, that I'm not in a statistic. I'm not average, because there's so much that I've done and that I am continuing to do.
Amazing. That is just absolutely fantastic. So, like, I'm seriously like, wow, yes, you're not the statistics. And really, that just goes to belief system, right? If you believe you are, then you are. If you believe you're not, then you're not. You're right, no matter what.
Yes.
So it's nice to always be right. I love that aspect, though. So one last question is, if you had some advice to give people today, anything on any of the issues going on, or for yourself or whatever, what would you like to share with people today?
Oh gosh, this is a hard one.
I know.
Well, I mean, to be honest, it goes back to what we just spoke about. Knowing that you can do something. That's really the first step, because without that proper mindset, no matter what green juices or what program people put you on, if you yourself don't believe it, if you yourself have that mindset of like, oh, I can't, or this is the end of me, then it doesn't matter what you feed your body. So feeding your body first with that proper mindset, that you can, there's a lot that you can do. You know, be both a teacher and a student of your own body. And then from there, when you have decided, when you're resolute about, you know, there are things that I can do for myself to be that better version of yourself, or to improve your health, that is the first step. And then from there, you can work with, okay, well, what do I need to do? And how do I do that? And then that's where, you know, you can work with a holistic nutritionist or your healthcare provider or health coach. But first, just that mindset of there is things that I can do, and then take it from there.
Love it. And I agree with you 100%. There are definitely things, instead of living in the can't version, then what can you do? You know, Michael Logier is even like, what do you want? Instead of, you know, I don't want this. Well, then what do you want? What would you like? What can you do?
Yes.
That is just.
And then I say from there, when you have set that mindset, actually a community, forming your tribe, this will set you up to be successful. So whether your community is, you know, your healthcare provider with your family members, you know, or even your pet dog, you know.
She's right there.
Like having that community to support you, to be the encouragers around you, is also really important.
Super important. Absolutely. Support is amazing as well. So the right support. And I love that. I usually tell the story about when I myself quit smoking. And yes, people, I used to be a very naughty girl. And when I quit smoking, I couldn't hang out with my smoking friends. So I couldn't. The toxins are still coming at me, but the mindset is still there to be a smoker. So definitely had to move forward and find friends that don't smoke and really purge that negativity and the toxic mindset that goes along with that too. So
yeah,
super.
Yeah, and sometimes we do have to make those tougher decisions, right? Or those choices and sacrifices.
Yes.
But who knows, maybe your smoking friends later, and it's like, oh, how did Michelle do that? It's like, and then you would be the one forerunning and inspiring others to quit smoking.
That's where the jogging came in anyway. So and I don't care if I'm ever a fast runner. I just love the act of going out for a jog and having the warmth of the sun on me. It's a whole different lifestyle for me. So well, I want to thank you so much for sharing your story today. It's just such an inspirational story of where you've come from and what you've done to overcome. And again, I want to remind everyone that if you want to get in contact with Denise, you can email her, denise@foodforlifehk.com. And you can definitely get a hold of her. And you can also find out about her upcoming book. Is it yet to be named?
Yet to be confirmed. The name is yet to be confirmed. I won't release that yet. But it will definitely be about the cancer journey and just definitely more tips and what I did. Yeah.
Yes, because you're absolutely right. The 2.5 pages of real estate does not do justice with the amount of things that you've done, right?
Michelle, really? Are you kidding me? 2.5 pages?
I am good at honing those things. I'm just going to share with everyone. I was really good on staying on the mark. So, which is why your story is so inspirational. And I'm so grateful that you're here to share it with us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Anytime. We'll have you back again because I just love talking to you. Okay, take care, everyone. Thank you for joining us today.
Take care. Bye.
You've been watching the Health Now Nutrition Podcast with Michelle Post. For more information on how you can be part of the holistic and nutrition movement, visit www.healthnow.today to book your meeting.